So as winter is coming, it is time to harvest many plants. And one of the plants that I harvest is something that I use for thorns. So come along with me as I share this little moment. One of my favorite forms of protection magic is in using thorns around my home. And this is one of my most beloved plants. So the plant and I have a sweet little relationship. I got it at a garden center here, and I believe a lot of people around here purchase these to hang on their front porch, and they just let them die off. So this one is kind of like my rescue, and it has been living with me for some years, and it goes out in the summer and comes in for the winter. And every winter I get some beautiful branches from it that I'm able to use all around my home. So I am going to go ahead and remove all of these leaves, and I'm going to put it on fast mode. So let's do that. So every autumn, when I transplant into the indoors, it will always shed all of its leaves. It is properly growling at me about the colder weather. So I go ahead and I harvest back a lot of the wood so that it can put its energy back into its root system, and then within a month it starts having new leaves. However, all of this old wood that I trim off ends up having a great purpose in my magic. So once all of the leaves have been plucked from the wood, I make sure that I collect the leaves in one of my many wood bowls, and they're already pretty much dry, but if there's any more dry, I am going to throw them in my air dehydrator. And then I powder them down. I always try to make sure that I use every part of these plants. And while these leaves are not edible in any way, I do add them to many of my protection magics. This plant is important to my family, particularly growing up in Southern California and a lot of the community circles that my family was part of. And so this plant has a personal connection to me. And so I powder it and I add it into my protection spells. A little jar of it every year goes on my family altar, which is my ancestral altar, I guess I could call it. It's family altar here. And I add it into different spells throughout the year where I'm asking for the help of my grandmothers or my mom. So that is one way that I use it. There are many, many, many ways to use dried leaves and different parts of these plants, and it just takes a little bit of creativity, and after years of practice with spellcraft, ways to use them just come to you. Many of my childhood summers were spent on my grandparents' farms back in Delaware. So both my grandparents were in Delaware, and they were both farmers, crop share farmers. And I have very interesting memories of having to harvest thorns with my grandmothers, particularly my mom's mom, where she would grow bramble bushes, blackberry bushes, and raspberry bushes. And yes, she harvested all of those thorns. It's not just like a rose or like this thorn where you have sporadic thorns. It is like a caterpillar hair of thorns. And we would sit there with these little teeny knives and harvest each and every one of those thorns that we would put out to dry in the sunlight, and then collect them all up into a mason jar that my grandmother then would put in her little bags and her little jars and all of the little things that I grew up helping my grandmothers do. But it wasn't witchcraft. That wasn't witchcraft. That was just magic. So I grew up doing these really interesting things, and whenever I catch myself on a thorn when I'm working with this, I immediately remind myself, when I was a child, all the thorns I used to catch on my little fingers. So it just kind of makes me giggle as I'm going through this process. So the thorns for this plant, which you can see now I've all I have removed all of the leaves from the stem. And these thorns will hook on to everything, which means they are excellent to have at your front door during winter decoration, to have a little extra spice of protection that is going to sit at your door. Anything that you speak to this plant about to not come in here is going to get hooked on to this and be blocked from coming into the home. So this is a really old tradition, growing up in Southern California, that has been handed down with this plant. It's one of the simple magics that we can use in our relationship with plants. And there are many things that you can do with this. If you have a stem you just want to take off the thorns to put into any magics you're trying to weave, or if you wish to hang it on your wall, as I do, if you have a rental home, to put an extra barrier on shared walls, that is another excellent choice that you can do with this plant. Maybe in the future I will share one of the spells that I need for that, but at this moment I don't need it. So I'm just right now harvesting and sharing the process as I go along. So hopefully you're having a good day or night wherever you are, and happy witching.